Hey there guys, Aldershot here, and today we're going to do an impression video on 4 p.m. developed by Dojan Deborah. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I'm probably not. I'm really sorry. It is available on Steam at the regular price of $5. Now I'm going to have an annotation on screen to allow you to skip through my intro monologue of this game and get you right into the gameplay if you want. The reason I'm doing that is because there's a few things I want to talk about before I actually start the game. Now 4 p.m. is kind of interesting in that it kind of promises to be a high fidelity cinematic take on narrative gameplay. It's kind of more of an experimental game. Something I learned from emailing back and forth with the developer is that this is actually a student project, alright, and this is very story driven. So I'm hoping not to spoil too much of the game. I will be talking over a lot of the dialogue just for the sake of not spoiling the game and all that sort of stuff. Now, before I even get into the gameplay, I do want to mention this game is very short. It's very short. It's under 45 minutes. Okay? So that's really short. And that was one of the biggest concerns I had while talking to the developer. Originally, the price was set at $7 or $8, one or the other. I don't remember fully now. But after giving him or her my honest thoughts on the game in the email, after telling them all that stuff, and even ignoring all my criticisms of the game, I mentioned that the game being less than an hour, less than 45 minutes, will not sit well with gamers at its current price. The developer were actually very respectful, very professional. They took my criticism very well, and actually made a few changes, mainly with the pricing. I suggested that they should drop the price, and that will definitely help ease potential lashback from gamers for those who might not like the game. And they've actually taken my advice and dropped it down to $5. So that's really good to see. It shows that the developers are realistic in their vision, that they're more than willing to listen to feedback, which is really great. Now, from the emails that they've been sending me, it sounds like 4 p.m. is the developer's kind of first game project, if not a student project. So it's going to be a little bit rough because of that, alright? And because of that, there's going to be a good few amounts of flaws, alright? So straight up, I'm going to tell you 4 p.m. might not be the quality game that you're expecting, alright? So let's get into it. That's enough from me, and kind of explore what the game has to offer. We're going to start a new game, alright? Now, the game promises to be a high-fidelity take on a cinematic experience for gamers, which is fine, and some of the graphics are actually quite good-looking for the most part. The lighting here is actually quite nice. The environment is well-designed. From a design's perspective, yes, it looks good, but when you look at the buildings, you look at the textures, that's when that high fidelity promise starts to kind of fade a little bit. As you can see, the texture quality is not very good. To be honest, not to sound too harsh, but just to be honest with my viewers, a lot of the buildings, the way it's textured, is kind of amateurish. Now, I am a 3D modeler, or at least I was a 3D modeler, and I have some experience with texturing and modeling and all that sort of stuff. And this is basically the buildings I've made when I first started off, which is basically one repeated texture over a very simple blocky model. Alright, so that's a little bit unfortunate. Now, again, the lighting and the overall design, as in the composition and the layout of certain environmental pieces, are actually pretty well done. I can see the developer having a pretty good sense of art under his belt. There's just some technical aspects that this person has not quite learned yet. Alright, there's some, you can tell there's definitely some 3D modeling techniques that they've yet to fully master, which is a little bit unfortunate. Alright. So it also kind of promises to be kind of experimental, but to be truthful, it's not really anything I haven't seen before. After playing Heavy Rain and Gone Home and Dear Esther and all those kind of games, yeah, I've seen this before. Interactive storytelling and all that sort of stuff. This one takes it to a 9th degree in that in Heavy Rain there's you know, heads-up displays and inventories and all that sort of stuff. And this one doesn't have any of that stuff. It's all in the gameplay itself, which is kind of an interesting premise. You know, that's something unique. All right, so as you can see, you know, the graphics, you know, it's laid out well. It got some cool lightings. It got some pretty cool After Effects and all that sort of stuff. But again, you take a close look at the texture quality, it is quite low, unfortunately. Now, do keep in mind, this game is only $5 now. So they're realistic about the quality after I've talked to them, which is great to see, as I mentioned before. So it is a cheapie. So that you do have to keep that in mind. That's going to be very, very important when calculating the value that you're going to get for this game. Alright. Now, something else about the game is that, as you notice, I'm walking around and I'm swiveling a lot. Like, a lot. And my head bobbing is quite plentiful, let's just say. Alright. Now, technically, in this story, I just woke up from a hangover. Alright, I just woke up from a hangover, so maybe that will explain why I'm swaying so much, but just in case I don't get too further into the game, later on, even when you're completely sober, the head bobbing is a little bit much. Alright, so let's check out this mirror here.
You look like...
Let's check out some of the voice acting.
Like a goddamn car crash. I take it we didn't get lucky last night. Ugh. And this is a $500 evening dress, not a nightgown, honey. Well, at least we're home, right?
Alright, so there you go. You checked out a bit of the voice acting. Now, I was talking about the head bobbing. I'm going to put that on hold, actually. We'll talk about that in just a second. I want to kind of talk about the face models in this game and the lip syncing. Now, you didn't notice when she was talking, her lip syncing was pretty off, and that's pretty consistent throughout the whole game. The lip syncing is not that great. All the face models, in fact, in this game is not that great. As you can see, they all seem to have like this dead eye look in them. They don't blink, and everyone's lips has this like weird duck face going on, and I'm just not a big fan of that. Alright, so the modeling quality is pretty mediocre at best for this game, unfortunately. Some of it looks good, you know, this looks pretty good, but when you talk about the textures for the buildings, not so good, or the characters' face models and textures, not so good, unfortunately. So I don't feel like this game can actually live up to its high fidelity claims. I feel that this game kind of falls on that, which is a little bit unfortunate. Alright, so we're going to go to a dance party.
Time to get dressed, Caroline.
From the looks of that invite, there's a lot of pink right now. Alright, so this gets a little bit nuts. Now, this is the part where it kind of tries to simulate you being drunk, which is fine. But watch what happens if I hit the Q button to dance. It gets crazy. This is beyond what it should look like, even when you're completely plastered, alright? So it's a little bit much. It's a little bit motion sickness inducing, which is a bit unfortunate. This is crazy amounts of head bobbing in absolute ridiculous amounts, even to represent you being drunk. Like, I can't even click on that card because it's so bad.
Lady,
and that's really, really unfortunate, you know? Okay, I'm getting a little sick, so I better get to the washroom. Alright. So, you know, I actually got a little bit motion sickness from playing this game, and that's really, really weird for me to experience because I don't get motion sickness. I can read a book on a moving boat just fine. I've done it before. And this game actually induced a little bit of motion sickness into me. And that's saying something. Alright? So this part is really, really bad for it, as you can see. It's just crazy amounts of head bobbing. It's just absolutely nuts. even when you're representing that the person's drunk, it is way too much for what it's trying to do, which is really unfortunate. Alright, now I want to try and get past this area, because we're going to go into a more sober segment of the game.
Hey,
and that way,
okay?
I can kind of really show you the faults of the head bobbing in this game. Now, I understand what the developer is trying to do. I can see what they're trying to do. Like, they're trying to simulate the human experience. They want to show you how the characters are seeing the world, and they want you to be in their shoes. And I guess they simulated head bobbing to help emulate that kind of feeling. But something that they kind of forgot about is that the human brain is a lot more complex than just a stick or just a camera on top of a stick. There's fluids and other crazy stuff going on in our brains and inside our head to keep our vision focused and still. And this game forgets that. Honestly, some of the head bobbing is more closer to simulating a camera strapped on top of a broomstick while it's mopping the floor than actually emulating, you know, the human movements and all that sort of stuff.
Mind if I take Union?
And also, something else that you might have noticed, the game kind of transits their story very awkwardly. It jumps all over the place, and hopefully I won't get to the a certain area of the game where I can't show you, because then that means I've played too much of it. But later on in the game, it throws all the really important parts of the story in your face within seconds. It crams a lot of information into you at the very end of the game. Because it's almost like the game knew it's going to end, it's running out of time and money, and it needs to be complete. So it just threw everything at you at the final few minutes of the game. And that caught me off guard a little bit, which is a bit unfortunate. Alright.
Really?
Now, to be fair, the story does go into some interesting areas, and it does take some pretty interesting and some pretty interesting and unexpected turns,
What you got planned?
which is, you know,
used
a
to
pretty
go
interesting thing. It's not a bad thing for sure. But again, the transition between segment to segment is a little bit awkward, as well as the way that they kind of threw a bunch of information at you within the last few minutes of the game. Now, the game does focus in a little bit into attention to detail. Like you saw, I was peeling off the stickers and rolling up the windows, which is appreciated. Attention to detail definitely will help a game like this kind of thrive. Alright, so I think I'm going to get out of the cab now, which I can show you more head bobbing, which is great. Okay, this is great. So as you can see, I'm just kind of moving around. And I'm sober now. I'm at work. Alright? Look at all the head bobbing. This is crazy. This is a little bit too much, to say the least. Alright? Again, it's closer to a camera being strapped on top of a mop stick than simulating, you know, actual human movements, which is a little bit is actually kind of distracting from the overall quality of the game, which is a little bit unfortunate. And this is your boss. He is freaky looking.
It's called being late.
Pay attention
At least be
to
honest
his
about what
lips
you are.
and his eyes.
Just get me the report and the proposal. Your timesheet will speak for itself at the end of the month.
So it's not very good. It's not very accurate lip syncing. The eye blinking is very awkward. And the face model overall is generally not all that great. Okay. Now, to be fair, I do appreciate what this game is trying to do. And I do like all the little details that they threw in. Like, I can type in this marketing report, which is actually kind of cool. You know, I mean, it doesn't do anything, but it does help immerse the player into the game, which is definitely welcomed. Alright, we're going to take a sip because we're an alcoholic. You actually do play as an alcoholic, spoiler. But I can see the fidelity and what this game is really trying to do. Another example of attention to detail, they threw in a playable mini game, which is actually really cool. All right, but anyways, as I was saying, I can see where this game is what this game is trying to achieve. It's trying to achieve this cinematic epic in a video game, and And you can see the developer has put in quite a bit of effort into it. I mean, it's definitely, you can tell it's a passion project based simply on all the little details. Kind of like this little mini game here that you can play. That's really, really cool. I like that. Okay? But unfortunately, it feels like they've kind of bit off more than they can chew. It seems like they kind of held themselves a little bit too high in esteem and couldn't quite achieve their overall goal, either through lack of technical knowledge or a lack of funds or maybe a lack of time, who knows. Either way, I feel that 4 PM is a game that had potential, and again, I can appreciate the fidelity that they were aiming for, but it doesn't achieve it. And the biggest sin is that it's under 45 minutes in length, which is a little bit unfortunate. Alright. But it is a cheapie. It's $5 now. And the developers are actually pretty open to feedback from what I've gathered, which is good to see. Now, I hope this doesn't discourage, if the developers are watching, I hope it doesn't discourage them from
You're fired, you drunk.
Making future projects. I hope they continue making future projects. I hope they, taking what they've learned from 4 PM and build on it, of course, and apply it to new projects. Because I think these guys have potential. You can see that these guys are passion people who just wants to make a game for the love of it. But at the same time, I have to be honest with you guys, my viewers, that this game is not all that great. Unfortunately. I mean, for $5, if you see it and you're really curious about it, $5 is really not that much. You could do worse. But at the same time, it's not the quality that you might expect. It certainly wasn't in the same level of quality that I expected when I first saw the trailers and the screenshots and all that sort of stuff. Anyways, that's enough for me. I don't want to spoil too much of the game. I think I've already played through like half of it for you guys, because it is really, really short. So there is that. Anyways, I'll get out of here. I appreciate you guys watching. Hope you guys found this enjoyable. Hope you guys found this informative. If you did, show me some love, like, share, fave, and comment. But most importantly, help me grow. Feed me my vegetables. And subscribe. Thanks for watching, guys. All the shout outs.